of you young rock and roll musicians are going to be big stars someday, just like Keith here. And we know what it's like to be on tour, going from town to town, ending up in some crummy hotel like this one. Let's face it, when you get to your room, the first thing you want to do is destroy it. What the heck? It's not yours. Keith, rip some of that wallpaper off, okay? Rip it off. Notice how our wallpaper doesn't come off in easy, nice strips. It comes off in big chunks that we can never replace.
Hi, everyone. It's Guy Gelso from Zebra here. The mighty Keith Moon of The Who, the poster boy for rock and roll excess. I don't think there's anyone that's received as much press coverage for all the crazy things he did, and it appears every story was true. But, you know, that's been told a million times. This video is about the brilliant musician he was and how unique his drum parts were through some of the most original rock songs written. If you're going to play a Who song, you're going to play Keith Moon parts. There's no way around it. There's very little video footage of him playing, so I recorded several song clips to show you, to the best of my abilities, what he does, but he can't be duplicated. So hopefully it'll give you a sense of how talented he was, and after 50 years, why he is known as one of the truly great rock drummers of all times. And by the way, if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe to my channel, and thank you. So here we go.
Try my baby every day. Each time I go a different way. Ride her. Ride her. Ride her.
Keith Moon, The Who's celebrated drummer, was born August 23, 1946, at Central Middlesex Hospital in northwest London, and he grew up in Wimberley. He started playing drums around age 14 and was mostly self-taught, but did take a handful of lessons from a London rock drummer, Carlo Little.
Sure enough, knock on the door, open the door, and there's this young lad with 10 bob in his hands, shoving it through the door before he came in, as if to say, don't turn me away, because there's the money. Take it.
He loved jazz drummer Gene Krupa, not only for his great playing, but also for Krupa's over-the-top style of twirling sticks and almost dancing while he played. Now, he played in several local bands like the Escorts and the Beachcombers. And around '64, the Beachcombers were playing the same circuit as a band called the Detours. Keith heard a rumor that the drummer might be leaving, and he went down to the Oldfield Hotel pub, and he managed to get up and play a couple of songs with him. That night, Pete Townshend, guitarist for the Detours, who had recently changed the name to The Who, asked Keith to come check out a band rehearsal. And they brought another drummer to try out. However, the band asked Keith to play first, and from that first song on, he was the drummer for The Who. The funny part is nobody actually asked him if he wanted to join. For a short while, when they got new management, The Who changed their name again to the High Numbers, and they started dressing with the mod look they were known for, which they hated, by the way.
Get around my swing beers. Let me begin my whole routine. I'm about the only girl I ever loved. Only one thing I gotta dance to keep on riding. Gotta dance.
So now the classic lineup of The Who was in place, and in '65 they released their very first album titled My Generation.
People try to put us down. I said you just because we get around. Things they do look awful. They say I hope I die before I get old.
There's always been a lot of debate with drummers over the years. Was Keith Moon any good, or was he just making a lot of noise and thrashing around? Well, these questions come up because people don't understand his playing. Moon didn't fit into a neat little box of preconceived ideas of how drummers are supposed to play. He played with no restrictions, with what he thought the song needed, and that was his genius. He did things differently, riding on crash cymbals. Sometimes he didn't use a hi-hat, sometimes he used two hi-hats. He didn't fill around the toms left to right like most drummers. He zigzagged back and forth. He used his bass drum as a foundation, especially in the early days, playing a straight eighth note underneath. Tony Williams, the great jazz drummer, once described Keith Moon's playing as beautiful and totally free. And that's a pretty heavy compliment.
Keith Moon's drumming was an expression of his personality and his ego and his grandiosity and his ridiculousness and his theatricality and his sense of humour.
A lot of people really have never understood how important Keith's drumming style was to The Who. And I kind of pictorially describe it as if you imagine Pete and John as two knitting needles, and Keith was the ball of wool. He would kind of keep it all together, and with the vocals on top, it would produce a product. You took Keith out of it, and it was just like...
If we played back our song in the studio, if we put the drums up, we'd know which song it was, because he always played with the vocals.
He'll play along dead rhythm, and then he'll just go in with the vocal, and it's true genius what he's doing. It's incredible.
You know, the funny thing is, Keith didn't think he was that good, if you can believe it. Keith said in an interview, "I suppose as a drummer I'm adequate. I've got no real aspirations to be a great drummer. I just want to play drums with The Who, and that's it." Now, 1966, the band released the second album, a quick one. But my introduction to The Who and Keith Moon was on their third album, The Who Sell Out, with the song I Can See for Miles. The band's sound was so big and the drums so different, and that chorus hook just really got me. After The Who Sell Out, the band felt they had more to offer and were done with just writing quick pop songs. It was the experimental 60s, so Pete Townshend wrote a rock opera called Tommy, about a boy that becomes deaf, dumb, and blind from witnessing his stepfather murder his father. Now, Tommy was their breakthrough album, and Keith Moon's playing on it was just brilliant. Here's a little short medley I put together. Watch how unconventional these parts are. After the huge worldwide success of Tommy, it was tough coming up with a follow-up. They needed a break. They needed to work on some new material, so they released a live album called Live at Leeds. Now, when they finally did release a new album, the sound of The Who had once again changed. On the opening track, Baba O'Reilly, Keith Moon pioneered playing along to sequencer tracks, unheard of in 1971. Pete Townshend had played Keith a few synthesizer rhythmic demo backing tracks, and they knew to pull this off, Keith would have to play to a tempo track. Well, to Pete's amazement, he was totally comfortable, and Pete said he realized this was how Keith had always played drums with The Who, by listening with big ears and following the music rather than trying to lead the band. So many great songs on The Who's next album, but the closing track was the anthem Won't Get Fooled Again, also with the sequencer track, and it shows how talented Keith was in his phrasing of fills. Keith Moon really tightened up his playing with Who's Next. It was more straight ahead, which was refreshing, and he was now a seasoned player both live and in the studio, and he had some interesting things to say about how he approaches playing both formats.
There is no way you can determine what will work on stage, because what works in the studio doesn't work theatrically. It doesn't make for... you really do have to approach the studio and the stage with two totally different frames of mind.
Next up for The Who was another rock opera, Quadrophenia. My favorite song was The Real Me. Keith is all over it with some funky playing and his signature snare fills. Then the closing track of the album is this powerful 6/8 ballad called Love Reign Over Me that I just love to play.
Only love can bring the rain that makes you yearn to the sky. Only love can bring the rain that falls like tears.
When you all are in your 50s, let's say, another 15, 20 years, do you think you will be together?
50.
Scary a little bit?
Oh, if only this was brand new.
Do you think you'll be together 10 or 15 years from now? Is it possible, Keith?
Yeah, I think in some form or another we will be. We won't be on the road as The Who, but we'll still be The Who.
And working together.
And working together and producing, creating.
Well, the 70s are not exactly kind to Keith Moon. The Who had released their 8th album, The Who by Numbers, and once again it was a worldwide success. He loved the road and the hectic pace, but when he got home in between recording, he would get bored easily and get into trouble, and it was just not healthy for him. His involvement in the accidental death of his driver one night in his limo at a pub, the breakdown of his marriage and subsequent loss of his family, and his addiction to alcohol were all tragic events in his life at that time. But he was trying his best to recover and get back to what he loved, playing in The Who. Well, unfortunately, after attending a party with Paul McCartney, he went to bed and was found dead on the morning of September the 7th, 1978. He died from an overdose of the drug formulated to treat and prevent symptoms of alcohol withdrawal. But like everything Keith did, he took way more than he was prescribed. The last album Keith recorded with the band was Who Are You? And I want to close out with an MTV-type video of the title track of all 4 guys laughing and clowning around and showing the love they had for each other. With a life and personality as big as Keith Moon's, it's just impossible to cover much in a short video, but I hope you enjoyed a little history on this brilliant musician that inspires drummers to this day. And you know, for a guy that didn't think he was that good, he sure had and still has a major impact on millions of drummers around the world. Thanks everyone for watching. Practice hard and keep it simple. Keith's drum sets changed many times over the years. He primarily played Premier drums. He started out on the typical small 4-piece kit, but he was always expanding. Now here's a collage of his drum sets over the years. Feel free to stop the video to check them out. It's really interesting stuff.